Hello, my name is Dr. Tom Groover, and I'm from Colorado, and I am on the line with Susie Beiersdorfer, and she's in Ohio. We're both members of the National Community Rights Network, and we got our position in that network because of our organizing that we've done for environmental and social justice through democracy at the local community level. And so we both belong to state organizations and local organizations, which are focused on changing the underlying structure of law to recognize community rights over corporate power. Susie, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hello, Tom. This is Susie Beiersdorfer, and I live in Youngstown, Ohio. I've been here for 23 years. My background is my father was a driller in the oil fields, started an oil tool service company in Bakersfield, California, which my brother still owns. I graduated with a degree in geology in 1983 and worked as a mud logger out in the oil and gas fields of California in the 80s. So I've been around oil and gas all my life. I didn't really hear about fracking until 2010, and it was very disturbing because it was not my grandfather's drilling rig or my grandmother's pickling brine. The wastes that were huge amounts of waste generated for this new type of drilling. Industry back then and still to this day says that they have been safely fracking for 65 years, but that is not true because of the new technologies that have come in. So in Ohio, we started hearing more and more about drilling and injection wells, and Youngstown did not know that we had an injection well right along the river, along our Mahoning River in Youngstown. And we actually first learned that the slant drilled wells, gas wells, shallow gas wells around our beautiful Mill Creek Park had been sold, the deep drilling rights had been sold to Chesapeake, and we were alarmed. So we began trying to do some kind of a people's movement to save our park. And we first heard about CELDEF, the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund, in late 2011. And we spoke with Ben Price, a project director, and he pretty much told us that because this park was in 4 different municipalities, it would be very difficult to write some kind of a document to do that. So, and again, throughout all this, we were speaking at our park board meetings, going to council meetings, writing our local representatives and our state representatives, and we're really, not feeling any relief. So we started out with an ordinance that our city council would pass. We actually had a member of the city council with a local attorney that was working with one of our group members, Frackfree Mahoning Valley is our group, to look at ways that citizens could protect their community from the onslaught of gas drilling coming into the urban environment. So this lawyer and a council member actually went to a meeting with Ben Price, another man named Doug Shields, who was on city council when Pittsburgh passed its ban, its CELDEF ban, in November of 2010. So from there, we had a public meeting with Price, which the council member scheduled for a Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock in the council chambers. We were a little disturbed by that, but, looking back on that, which was now 3.5 years ago, it was just part of trying to maintain the status quo. So from there, new things started happening, like the board of control, which was the mayor, the law director, and the finance director, wanted to look into leasing public lands in the city of Youngstown. And that ended up going to 3 readings. We had a petition. Again, there was movement among the people. But the city council voted 5-2 to allow looking into leases. Now, the 2 dissenting votes were just because they wanted the council to be in control, not the board of control to be in control. So, and they certainly did not like the people trying to be in control. A lot of this changed in late December when our injection well had already, we probably felt 6 or 7 earthquakes, and the state shut down the well on December 30th. But on December 31st, we had a 4.0 earthquake in the city of Youngstown at 3:04 in the afternoon. And to say that that shook a lot of people up would be putting it mildly.
What is that like? I've never been in an earthquake, but the image that I get is that your walls crack and your pictures fall off the wall, and the ground starts heaving under you like an ocean wave. What is it like?
Well, these type of earthquakes, I grew up in California, so I'd experienced some earthquakes, certainly. These were more like a boom. And the first one that I felt was on March 17th, 2011. And we thought that a truck had hit our house at 7:20 in the morning.
Oh,
And so those were the first 2 that there were actually 2 right then that were felt throughout the rest of 2011. There were maybe 4 more that were above the 2.2 or 3 magnitude levels, so that could be felt. The one on December 31st, I was at a deli in downtown Youngstown, and it was the boom again. Everything kind of jolted, and the big picture windows didn't break, but you could see them move, boing, like that, and then people are just walking around in a daze. People that I know that lived in neighborhoods, they came out of their front doors, just looking around, wondering what the heck just happened. So it was very scary. And they said, oh, 4.0, no damage. Well, I know people whose, foundations were cracked. There was a piece of a chimney that fell a little bit north, and ended up, throughout all the scientific, examining of this well and everything else, it's had 566 seismic events. So many of them were very small. But when you have brick houses, you have old water and gas lines, infrastructure, for people to say there was no damage done, that again is unreliable and unacceptable. So in early January 2012, the city council got a meeting together at our convention center, and there were 500 to 600 people there. Of course, national media and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. They're the group that was tasked in 2004 because of oil and gas preemption of local community laws. They are tasked with permitting, regulating, enforcing, and getting their revenue from the oil and gas industry. So they began showing a PowerPoint about the history of oil and gas on a movie screen way up in the convention. So people were so agitated, they just started yelling out, "What about the earthquakes?" And so it was a very energizing movement. And within the next couple days, we formed a group. I mean, we'd been a group called Guardians of Mill Creek Park. We formed a group called Frackfree Mahoning Valley, which we still have a blog spot on, on the internet and that kind of thing. And so we started again looking in more deeply to this whole process, the shale gas development. And, so many things revealed. We started looking at public records, and a few of us went down to the State House to talk about the seismic, problems with these injection wells. They did shut down 5 injection wells around our area because of the, because of the seismic. So, and again, that was now, over 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. So that's when we started, like I said, in early 2012, well, end of 2012, we started talking seriously with Ben Price of CellDef because we hadn't gotten any relief with the ordinance and that kind of thing. So we did a community bill of rights. So we started collecting signatures on a petition. This is a petition that gives the right of local self-government, our unalienable rights to drink clean water, to breathe free air, to be free from toxic trespass. We did not want drilling or injecting within the city of Youngstown. So this was all laid out in this petition. Going door to door in January was, pretty brutal, and we certainly learned some things. We also kept up with writing letters, signing petitions, going to our local council meetings and county commissioner meetings, still believing that the system was set up to work for us,
Right.
Not for the corporate state. Yes.
I want to ask you clarify something here. Now, the petition, which is the Bill of Rights petition, that is a legally binding petition, is it not?
Definitely, and that's been one of our main, barriers, is people say it's not enforceable, it's unconstitutional.
Right.
But what is higher than our inalienable rights to be able to live in our community,
Right.
and to be able to decide what comes in our community?
So this is much different than the usual way that communities organize, right? Most of the time they do some non-binding petition, which is like asking for a resolution or something.
Oh, exactly.
It
Yes.
doesn't change any law. It doesn't cause people to necessarily have to behave any differently at the government level. Probably doesn't change very much of anything ever. Is that correct?
It's like a goodwill gesture.
Right.
There were two communities northeast of us. One small community had an industrial park. They didn't want injection wells in there, so their township trustees passed a resolution that said no injection wells within the township. We thought that was just amazing.
Right.
And then a month later, a home rule city praised this township and passed their own. And they actually were working with CellDef, so they passed their own local ordinance. The industry came in,
Right.
gave them a bunch of BS and a lot of bullying, and they actually rescinded the ordinance.
Yeah.
And guess where? An injection well, 2 wells were drilled right in that township, right next to the city, and they experienced earthquakes in August of 2014.
Okay, so now your community Bill of Rights is not an ordinance. And so,
No, our community Bill of Rights, which has not been passed yet,
right.
is not an ordinance. It's because we're a home rule charter city,
Right.
we can do initiative, referendum, or recall. So we are using our privilege of initiative to have a citizens-based amendment to our charter that
Right.
says we believe in local self-government. We believe in our inalienable rights, and we want our community to be able to have more of a say than an outside industry.
And that means, because it's an amendment to your city charter, that the commissioners or the board of trustees or whoever runs that city, the elected representatives, cannot rescind that amendment. That is a charter amendment and not an ordinance.
That's right. That's
Right.
right. It's a charter amendment. Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So you had some regular petitions going on, the regular non-binding petitions, but then the one that we're talking about is the Community Bill of Rights, which has a ban against fracking and related activities because that industry violates those rights. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes. All the shale gas development, the pipelines, the injection wells, the compressor stations, and the actual drilling and fracking.
Right.
Another thing was,
They were intended to be put right in your neighborhoods, right in
oh,
your own
definitely,
backyards, right
yeah,
next to your schools and houses and hospitals and churches and everything.
150 feet, 150-foot setback from a structure in the city, and 100-foot setback out in the rural area. So yeah, it's talk about invasion.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Interesting.
have a, like I had said, there was a House bill passed in 2004 that preempted local communities from having the right to say no to only one industry, the oil and gas industry.
Right.
So they knew
Okay.
what they were setting up.
Well, pardon the interruption. Could you continue with your story for us?
Yes, well, I will say now that we are on our fifth attempt. So we tried the first attempt in 2013. We lost by about 13.6%. I have all the numbers, but we can just sort of go over that. Only 17% of the electorate voted. In a primary election, a lot of people don't even come out and vote. So, but we also were having town halls, protests. Several of our members, were arrested, laying down in front of frac trucks that were coming into a well that was drilled in our drinking water protection area of our Meander Reservoir that serves over 250,000 people their water. So that was an outrage, and that just sort of slipped under. We just found it in public records one day, and that was in September 2012. It was like just awful. So anyway, so we did that in May, and we immediately said we're coming back. And so in November of 2013, the general election, we lost by 9 point something percent. So again, we were on a trend. So of course, we're not going to quit. We don't lose until we quit. That's one of our group Frackfree Mahoning's mottos. Also, we have fun and we get stuff done. So we again went out canvassing in January of 2014, got it on the ballot again in May. You have to get a certain number of signatures that then have to be validated by the Board of Elections. And, that's really the only hoop to get on the ballot, is to have a certain number of valid signatures, on this petition that you circulate.
Right.
So again, May 2014, we lost by 8.4, 8.6, something like that. So again, we felt like more people were being educated on this subject. There were always things happening. I mean, we had everything from a radioactive processing plant put down along the river to the injection well that had that had triggered the earthquakes. The owner of that was dumping into the Mahoning River. So just all these outrages by, just poisoning our land. So in November of 2014, there was a lot of, I haven't even talked about the opposition. Basically, all the local leaders and officials were against us. They formed in 2013, and it's kind of been throughout the 3 years, the Mahoning Valley Coalition for Job Growth and Investment. It was spearheaded by the Youngstown Warren Chamber of Commerce, but it also included the Democratic Party, the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union, which that's where we found most of the money coming through, the local leaders, including the mayor and the city council, other unions. The first year, the university was even on there, but it was only one man that had sort of, pushed it through to say that they were a part of this coalition. So they have, hundreds of times more money than us. I think one time we spent about 5,000 and we found 66,000 that they had spent, but we know it's a lot more than that. So we were just coming up against big money, but we canvassed everywhere. We put out mailers. We got a couple of billboards one time, just through bake sales and donations and things. So, very grassroots. And I mean, it's beautiful. But anyway, in November of 2014, we lost by 15.7%.
Oh,
And so that was a big deal. I mean, we really felt, canvassing that people were, so positive, and, we really, we thought we were going to win, but we also realized that it's really not about winning, because once this passes, that's when, the real backlash is going to happen. They're going to be
yeah.
saying it's unconstitutional, it's not legal. So we actually, after the November 2014 election, one of our members did it wasn't an exit poll, it was an after voting phone poll
Right.
by a organization. And it showed that we won by 2.9%, which was in the, or 2.1, I'm sorry, 2.1%, but that's in the margin of error. So you couldn't really count that, but to the figures of losing by 15.7 and winning by 2.1 was just a very large margin. So it
Right.
was very suspect. 3 years into this, we all got older and wiser. So we did not do the May 2015 election as for the primary, as far as getting signatures. We were out at the election polls on 2000 in May 2015, and actually garnered 800 valid signatures of the 1,200 we needed. So that was a real big light bulb of, oh, we don't have to canvass in January and February,
Right.
and we used, and, I mean, you're at the polls, so these people are, for the most part, registered. So that was great. And again, we worked throughout the summer. A new group popped up in the middle of the summer called Voters for Ballot Integrity. And their thing was the Board of Elections should throw this off, because
Right.
it's been on the ballot 4 times, and like their motto says, enough is enough. These are some of the slogans. Enough is enough. This is a job killing bill. Radical out of towners, made this bill.
Right.
So, that was and jobs around here. This was a steel industry town that the steel industry closed in the late 70s, and it's been devastated ever since. Youngstown has, from a Brookings Institute, I think it was 2009 or 2010, highest poverty rate in the U.S. So, I mean, this is a very
Wow.
depressed area, just looking for something to come in and save the day. And so, that's still continues to be a big hurdle with us in our organizing and our educating. Anyway, so this new group, they were there. We didn't want to address them because we were still gathering signatures. We turned our signatures in early August, and then after they were certified by the Board of Elections and then the Youngstown City Council, they always have to pass an ordinance that says, this amendment to the charter will be on the ballot. And that's always enjoyable to go to that city council meeting and watch them, as they hate to do it, say yes, because they have to, because that's the law there. But in September, there was a special meeting, it may have been end of August. The Board of Elections decided to just throw the initiative off the ballot, because it's been on too many times, because there was a court case. It's called Monroe Falls, and it was actually a zoning issue in Monroe Falls, Ohio, with a company called Beck Energy. And the Supreme Court ruled that it was unconstitutional that the city of Monroe Falls not allow them to drill. Again, it was a zoning issue, but this has been used over and over again, as a reason to not have these on the ballot. A little side thing, in November of 2012, Broadview Heights, Ohio, which is a city just outside of Cleveland, did pass a community bill of rights. And several other cities have also in Ohio. But they're now still so November 2012 they passed it. They are still in litigation. The citizens were told they have no standing. The city has not supported the Bill of Rights. It just goes on and on. So it's been in litigation. I think the company, I don't know the name anyway, or I'd name it, but I think it was over a year, or it may have been even 2 years before they decided to sue the city to say that, you're cutting our profits by not allowing us to drill in your city. Anyway, so there is a lot of turmoil around that. So there was all this evidence of why it shouldn't even be on the ballot. But the thing is that the law states that, that one of these has to pass before it can even be looked at as being constitutional or unconstitutional. So this happened on a Wednesday, this Board of Elections meeting. By Friday, Tuesday, I think, sorry. By Friday, the city of Youngstown had filed a complaint with the Ohio Supreme Court saying, you have to put this on the ballot. So even though the city of Youngstown is, not supportive of the Bill of Rights, they have a new law director from when we first started, and and I admire his statesmanship as well as our mayor for saying, the citizens got the correct number of signatures. This has to be on the ballot. Our own group, the Community Bill of Rights Committee, which was made up of 6 people, also filed a complaint. And within a couple of weeks, because it had to be a rushed complaint because, it needed to be on the ballot, the Ohio Supreme Court ruled 7-0 that it had to be placed on the ballot. Another great meeting, going to the meeting and watching them certify the ballot. Not to exhibit any Schadenfreude, which is, but so, then we went on from there. So, I mean, this was all like, okay, we're on hold again, And so we canvassed and we, got on radio programs. And one thing that we really find beneficial is to get labels of the absentee ballots every day. They'll give you a printout of the people that have requested absentee ballots. So we made up a little postcard that we could send to those people to just, vote yes. But that's another thing is the first several times the opponents would say, if you're against fracking, say no to fracking. So they were using that as, people would say, why can't you just have a question that says, do you want fracking in the city of Youngstown? Yes or no? Right. Why is this so long? Why is this so hard to read? Right. And that's where we started talking about, the legalese. So we went on from there. And the thing that we thought would change everybody's mind in late August was a letter that all drinkers of water from Meander got that, well, in 2014, we got a letter that they weren't testing for trihalomethane, which is a chemical formed from when chlorine is added to water that has oil and gas, right. ingredients in it. It can also be from organics. But anyway, we got a letter in the mail that said that trihalomethane had been found in our drinking water. And even the person, the engineer out at the reservoir said this could be from organics or this could be from oil and gas operations. That's one of the big reasons that Pittsburgh banned fracking, was because their wastewater treatment plant, or their drinking water treatment plants were forming trihalomethanes because they were just dumping it down the river. So again, a big wake-up call. That was one of our main motto, was yes to clean water. And so anyway, so this fall, we are now at 2.9%. We lost by 2.9%. And we are doing a recount. And we're not doing a recount because we think we're going to win. We're doing a recount because of all the different ways that we have been kept off the ballot or have tried to be, overturned, or because there was another lawsuit in the in the fall of 2013. So it's been quite a bumpy road, but quite a very exciting road. We've grown our numbers, we've diversified our numbers. We feel connected, like you and I, Tom, here's Ohio and Colorado.
Right.
And in Ohio, we have the Ohio Community Rights Network. We have 14 counties working together, just on the conference call last week. And, so we all know what's happening, whether it's pipelines or factory farms or drilling waste. As Ben Price says, we don't just have a fracking problem, we have a democracy problem.
Absolutely, yeah. I think one point I wanted to find out about is I was looking on your Frackfree Mahoning County YouTube channel, and there was a update there that had to do with the meeting with the city council on the recount. And the Board of Elections. Okay. So one of the points that came out there was that for the recount, they have never tested the voting machines there to see if they are accurately reflecting the true number of the vote. That's a very interesting thing. So they were considering the fact that this recount would be an opportunity to test the integrity of the voting system through the machines. The other interesting thing is the actual ballot itself. In the ballot box, when they go in, I'm assuming they're going in after they've been scanned and entered into the machine, and then they go into a box, and the box is sealed. And so that was going to be, with the recount, they're going to count those actual ballots, but the seal has been broken on the ballot boxes. That's really kind of strange. That, along with that 15% disparity between the telephone polls and what the Board of Elections reported as the number that they got, the tabulated vote number, that's really kind of an issue to me. And of course, I'm kind of like that. I don't trust government very much, but that's my nature, I think, by nature. But can you talk just a little bit about that?
Well, this has been a whole nother issue. Again, it's not just fracking. It's not, now we see just how vulnerable our vote is, our precious vote that people, put so much, weight on as far as our voice. And the thing with this is, they didn't seal the ballots because they wanted to count there was a write-in. But as the person John said on the video, but don't you have the optical scans for that? And actually, Ray Beiersdorfer, my husband, has requested the public records, or made a public records request for all the optical scans. So, that may be another way to look at it. From 2004 to 2011, we didn't even have paper ballots. So that, now we do. But these machines, actually, they just started them this year. They also eliminated many polling places. I think it went down from 77 to 45. So there's at least 41 ballots that were cast where the people voted at the wrong precinct. And the Board of Elections said, too bad. Right. Well, it was very confusing. And also, as you read, or as you probably heard on that video, or there is an article about it, there has not been a recount of anything in over 2 decades.
Right.
So talk about just trusting the, vote. And the Board of Election, 2 of those members were founding members of the Mahoning Valley Coalition for Job Growth and Investment, right, and have been very outspoken before us. But of course, they say that, well, we can leave our opinion, at the door when, we're being neutral on here. So there's just so many red flags. And so, again, there was another article that the headline was, the anti-frackers are putting their money where their mouth is. So, we're paying for this recount.
Oh, you are?
Again, oh yeah, it's
Well, this is
Oh, that's
another
right.
thing.
There
We had
was
to
a
put
check presented at that meeting. Yeah, like
right. We put
three
down a
thousand dollars or
deposit,
something. 2,000. Yeah.
2,475, which is $55 a precinct. They
Yeah.
can charge us anywhere between, I think, 5 or maybe it's 15 and 55. Well, we won't know, so we may get some money back.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's nothing. Who knows how they'll deal with that. So again, you know, it's petitioning our government, which is created to serve us, is quite a sticky thing. Who'd have thunk it? Not enough people yet, right, Tom?
Well,
Not enough people
that's
thinking
another
that yet.
point. That's another
Yeah,
point, and
yeah.
I hope that a lot of people see this interview with you. This is an amazing story, and when they see this, I mean, the natural inclination would be that if there is an injustice going on, an environmental injustice, a economic injustice, a social injustice, um, it would be very it would be human nature to want to help out. Is there anything that people in your area can do, or even people nation and worldwide could do to help you guys, enact this community bill of rights and begin enforcing it in your community?
You know, it's about people joining together and realizing that the government that they have put all their trust in is not protecting them, as you said, environmentally, economically, and socially. And I think there's a real awakening going on, but it's really about joining together. And it's not about joining like-minded people together. It's about joining people at the local level, then connecting regionally, statewide, and nationally, of people who believe in the common good, people who believe that we want to leave a legacy for our children so that they can live, in some sort of comfort on this earth. And I'm not talking material comfort. I am talking basic rights, clean air, clean water, the ability to eat food that has not been genetically modified. Who knows what that does to our bodies? I mean, there's just so many things coming up now. I mean, basic human decency is at stake here.
Right. Yeah. What kind of things do you need to have done there in your town, to be able to uh, really establish rights as the basis for the local lawmaking? What do you need? What help do you need? Do you need donations of time, donations of money? Are you going to be going for another ballot initiative? Do you need petitioners? Of course, you could use people to vote in favor of what you're doing. What is there a way people can get a hold of you and
Well,
volunteer and donate?
definitely. Yes, we have protectyoungstown.org. We have that at Facebook, and we have, the website. We have Frackfree Mahoning.blogspot. We also have Frackfree America. We actually just did a nationwide protest. We've got some just amazing people on our team. We had, I think, 13 states that got together and did creative things, from street theater to protests to showing movies so this is all about waking people up to the fact that
Right.
there is no one protecting us. I'll tell you personally, in Youngstown, our biggest issue is a racial and an economic divide.
Right.
To think that this is the poorest city in the nation, or in that report from a few years ago, and yet so many of us live very comfortably. So from our standpoint, I just want to see our community come together more, not just around the topic of no fracking, but around the topic of what do we want our community to look like now and in the future? How can we
create a community where everyone has enough and where each of us are taking care of each other. So, our biggest need here is just to open the conversation
Right.
and to start to, build a bridge across the divide. And I really feel like that's happening. And that's very heartwarming. And, one of the things that I'm sure you have realized too is this is not going to be fixed in one election or in, this is like, yeah, this is a purpose actually, is to,
Right.
just keep working, just keep, walking the truth and not being, I'm not being, you know, the ego, that's what it's about dropping the ego and looking at the collective and what is the best for all, um, all people
It's
in
a
our community.
Yeah, it's a fantastically inspiring cause when you realize that our entire legal and governmental system is set up to protect corporate property and commerce over the rights of individuals and the rights of communities and the rights of nature. And the only way we're going to be able to get our system into alignment with asserting and protecting our inalienable rights is to do things at the grassroots like you're doing.
Yeah.
Is to
And I wanted to
actually,
add
yeah,
that,
please.
celldef.org, and Thomas Lindsay, the attorney for celldef, just came through Ohio, did a 6-city tour, Ohio, Time for a Revolt. And on our Frackfree Mahoning YouTube, I recorded his talk, and this would give anybody a better idea of what we're talking about when we're talking about community rights movement,
Right.
rights-based movement, this network. And like he says, there's 200 communities across the United States that have passed these bills of rights on everything from factory farms to sewage sludge to GMO foods to fracking, but we need 10,000 communities.
Right. Well, that's very inspiring.
Yeah.
So, for people interested in helping Youngstown, it sounds to me like the best thing is just to look you up on the web, go to your blog, go to your websites,
Yes.
look at your YouTube channel, and to pay attention to whatever events or activities you all are having in the future, and get involved, subscribe to your newsletter, and build your community and build your rights through grassroots organizing. And at some point, we'll join together nationwide with a major drive to change the Constitution of the United States to give the rights of people, communities, and nature higher authority than the simple protection of corporate property and commerce.
That's right.
Well,
It's pretty exciting.
Thank you so much. It's been great
Thank you,
talking
Tom.
to you. And I'll talk to you again soon.
All right.
Bye bye, Susie.
Bye.